In the UK, it is getting ridiculously hot. I appreciate that all of Europe is also getting ridiculously hot. But in the UK, we don't expect it. We like to moan about our weather. We like it a bit cold. We like to be able to wear this sort of thing like all year long. Or is that just me? It might just be me. But thanks to this itty bitty thing called global warming, it's getting hot in here. I don't want us to take off all our clothes because we're alabaster skinned and it's not right. You know what they do to alabaster skinned people when it gets too hot? Australia is a fantastic example. They put out sun cream instead of hand sanitizer. We don't have the infrastructure for that. As a point of principle, I'm wearing a jumper. Incredulity aside, I got really peed off by a weather forecast report. The basic premise of it was giving advice on how to stay cool in the heat. Get some cold water, get a fan, put cool towels on you, close the curtains, close the windows when the heat outside is hotter than inside because then you're letting warm air into the house. Stay out of the sun, watch it, etc, etc, etc. Now, I have a loft room. That loft room gets really, really hot. In the UK, if you don't know already, we have big windows because we like sunlight. We like the promise of heat. We don't like the reality of heat, but we like the promise of it. We go, oh, how lovely outside. Come in, come in. Hide us from the wind and the rain, but come in, sunlight. Those big windows are not an asset when it gets to almost 40 degrees. They let the heat inside. I also saw a hilarious video from somebody Italian living in the UK, and I can't remember her channel handle. She said, we use red bricks in Italy in pizza ovens. Now, it's not the same brick, etc, etc, but the premise of it, of keeping the heat inside, is quite funny. We are all living in pizza ovens. Pizza. Apart from you don't want to put your cooker on because it's too freaking... I've spent most of the video thus far ranting, but I've actually got a point with which to help you during the next inevitable heat wave. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember 2022. At that point, there was an infographic circulating the news sites that basically said humidity and heat are the real issue. It can be hot but not humid. You can sweat and then it won't feel as hot. You can actually cool yourself down. Core temperature is about 36 degrees. When it gets towards 36 degrees and you cannot sweat it off, that is where the heat becomes a killer. And that's why we're being issued red warnings. Heat and humidity is a killer because you're cooking in your little human skin and you are cooking and it's unpleasant and your organs are cooking and it's hot, and I don't know how to explain this because I don't have the words, because heat is not something that we normally explore in this country. So I definitely take issue with you bringing cold water into a room because I don't know if you've tried doing laundry in this weather. The extra humidity makes it really sticky and unpleasant, really, really muggy. Even though it does provide temporary relief, I really, really wouldn't increase the humidity inside. That is your lookout, but those are my 2 cents. The other issue I have with the news report was the first thing they said to do was close your curtains. And that's not wrong in itself. So I looked at some thermodynamic principles because, again, I have a loft. Trying to sleep in a loft bedroom in these degrees when it doesn't get below 20 at night is really uncomfortable. I don't really want to move from my bed. That's also not comfortable. So what's the solution? Well, we did buy an AC. But we also did some actual preventative measures because guess what? 300 years ago, there was no AC. So what people relied on in hot countries, I mean, they didn't have quite the same structure. They had like inset windows, no glass, that sort of thing. But they stopped the heat from entering in the first place. Let's look at some numbers. In terms of where your windows are likely to be, it's the UK, we're all over the place. The worst offenders are south and west. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and I had to think about the orientation for you, so you're welcome. That means the east-facing stuff can get pretty warm first thing, but if you are in the west, it gets hot because it's had the heat of the day warming up the air, and then you're hit with solar. So that's quite uncomfortable. South as well, because it's kind of got both east and west more visible. Apparently that's quite hot. I can't really get my brain around that, but apparently south and west are the worst for overall solar gain. Let's try a very simple mathematical thing. We start off with 100 units of solar energy, whacking your standard double glazed window. And this, by the way, full proviso, as always with these videos, is that it's very general. I don't know what type of glazing you have. I don't know how big your window is. I don't know what your house is made of, whether you've got rendering that reflects more of the light. I don't know whether you're under a tree. All of these things matter. Modern double glazing allows maybe 70 to 80% of solar heat gain through the window. So that is, say, 75 of that 100 that we started with. 25 units do not enter at all. The solar that enters the window heats everything up. It goes off the floor, the walls, the furniture. It heats everything. It doesn't just come in and bounce around the air. If you're interested in this, do look into it because I could be explaining really badly. By the time it gets through the window, it becomes harder to get out. They don't exit the window as effectively. So say 75 is floating around if you don't have your curtains closed. If you do close your curtains, the situation's a bit different. You've still got your 100 and 75 come in through the window. However, your curtains are there. Curtains might reflect 30 units back towards the window. That doesn't go bouncing straight out though. It is absorbed by the glass. Then some's absorbed by the curtain, and then a lot of it is heating the air between the window and the curtain up. In terms of what actually enters the room, maybe you get 45 to 55 units. Let's call it around 50. So you go straight from 75 to 50 with the curtains closed. If you've got something decent outside the window, of your 100 units, 70 get pushed back out. They're going, no sir, do not enter, thou shalt not pass. Then maybe 20 units of that remaining 30 is absorbed by the screen. It doesn't have the same sort of power that it can as easily get into your house. So you've got maybe 10 units actually hitting your glass. Then your window transmits maybe 75% of those again. So that's 7.5 units instead of 75 without any curtains closed. If you have your curtains closed, maybe 4 or 5 units of heat is heating up your house. Now, that is very much focused on the windows only. The rest of your house is not perfectly sealed, so that is not going to be completely solving the problem. But those numbers are so massive. They're so crazily massive that it is worth doing what we did during the last heat wave, shoving some blankets outside. Doesn't look pretty, but I tell you what, it's a lot more comfortable. In the loft room, does it still get hot? Yeah, it does, because it doesn't solve the rest of the problems. But does it get as hot for as long? No, it is a lot more comfortable. And then when you do the cold flushing through the evening, more of the heat inside escapes faster when the temperature's lower outside, because less of that heat has been absorbed into the furniture, into the walls, into the carpets. We have a lot of windows in our house. Some of them are worse than others. We have been gradually investing in bits of solar blocking fabric, and it feels ridiculous because you're like, well, it's a bit of fabric, surely it'll just go around it. But no, it doesn't. It's not the air temperature you need to worry about. It's literally rays from the sun, and it's so much more comfortable. To give you an idea of price, and it was on sale at the time, we have a set of conservatory very glass doors. We've got a big piece of fabric we're basically dangling from the gutters, and that I think was about £40. And I am definitely going to be buying more of it and basically jimmying it on every single window in the house, because A, it's an absolute pain putting old bed sheets on. B, it will do a better job if I have some actual fabric. It's supposed to reflect like 90% of it, and you can still kind of see through it, which is really cool. Also, I kind of want to go from being that weird house that's got bed sheets on the outside to being like, oh, they have a solar planning strategy. You know, when you think other people care about you more than they do? Yeah. But it's embarrassing shoving bedsheets out. It is a pain trying to jimmy yourself out of the Velux windows, so I'm going to DIY it because I don't have loads of money, because mat leave is less than minimum wage. It's so much less expensive than getting it properly done. So while yes, you can get an improvement by closing your curtains if your curtains are reasonable, if you have the means to do so, put something on the outside of your window, or at least on the outside of your worst windows, because this is miserable. We're all uncomfortable. It's so much better to be preventative rather than have to deal with the heat afterwards. The problem is you now can't unsee it. So I was just walking around of an early morning, because that is life now. And this poor woman had left her door and windows open, and I saw her go down the stairs, and I was just like, oh, by the way, if you put something on the outside, it's 2 to 3 times more effective. And she was just like, right. She was not from the UK, by the way. She was from somewhere very obviously hotter than here, but she still hadn't got the stuff on the outside, because you don't always think about it. You just go, okay, I will block the sun, like it's a physical force, but you're not thinking about all the types of radiation that can infiltrate your cave. So that's why I got annoyed by the weather report. Annoyed by the weather, then had to learn thermodynamics. If you want to go down some more rabbit holes with me, hit that subscribe button. Next week I'll be looking at our Roborock mop upgrade and how it made life harder. I promise we're not this down every single week. I'm just quite irritated. And then about this time next month is the next video in our Vendetta series. Have a great week. See you next time. Bye!